Welcome back to the COG Weekly podcast, season 3, episode 32.
There it is.
Yeah.
We got through it really effectively and efficiently this time.
Very well.
Unlike previous times
Yeah.
on the COG Weekly podcast, this is the first time that we are behind the mic in a week, and we've recorded 2 videos in between that time since we've been behind the mic for a podcast. So you're going to hear the podcast before you'll see those videos, but I'm just trying to let you guys know videos are coming to the COG Weekly channel. We are doing more of a YouTube tailored sort of video, less of a podcast. So if you're into podcasts, you can watch the podcast, and if you're into shorter YouTube videos, you can watch the videos. Those will be funny. Those will be out within the coming weeks, and more will be coming after that. So look forward to that. And without further ado, we need to talk about this week because it was the biggest week in football over the past year, in my opinion. I'm sure you somewhat agree, at least. And we didn't even discuss this before the pod, but is it the final day of the season?
It was.
No, of our season.
Oh, of our season. Oh,
I think it is. I think it's the final. It's the final episode of season 3.
Yeah.
So congratulations to all listeners who have made it through to the full end of season 3.
Yep.
And also, I think we finally got to our 2-year anniversary of Class and Grass Media.
Yeah, I think so.
Because we started.
I can check.
Maybe we didn't actually. Maybe not quite yet. Because it was such a weird thing. Because our first season was during when COVID was first hitting, and right when the Bundesliga came back is when we did our first episode, and that was in the summer, so it might not be yet.
June 2020.
So we have a little bit, couple more weeks, and then it's the 2-year anniversary. But this is the final episode of season 3. So thank you all for sticking through it, season 1, season 2, and season 3, whenever you joined and began watching. And yeah, we're ending it with a bang. It was a really good season this year with a lot of things that led up to a really good ending. But before we talk about that, let's first talk about the Hassani of the Week candidates and who we think deserves this prestigious award, starting with Mario Balotelli.
Yes, indeed. Not a name I think you would expect.
No, not a name I would probably think that would be pulled out of the hat for Hassani of the Week candidates.
Not in this day and age, but
maybe 5 to 10 years ago, but definitely not now. Although it kind of resembles some sort of nostalgia, considering this was the final day of the Premier League, and we will talk about it later, but it was a magical day for Man City yesterday, as of the time of recording right now, and it was also a magical day for Man City in 2012 at this time, and Balotelli was a huge part of that. So I think it makes sense that he is in the running for Hassani of the Week this week.
Exactly. He did score 5 goals, which I think is the most out of anyone nominated for the Hassani of the Week in its history. But in the Super League, which is where he's playing now, and not only 5 goals, but I think the most viral one it has to be a Puskás contender.
It definitely does. I'm sure everyone here has seen it. He did about 7 step overs in a row.
Maybe 10.
I counted. I think it was 7 or 8.
7, yeah.
It was crazy. And to do that many step overs, if you're a basketball fan, I mean, it would be like doing 7 between the legs in a row. Yeah. If you're maybe even more than that because of how common a between the legs dribble is. I mean, if you're a different, I don't know how
it was just on
to other
repeat,
sports.
And you're like,
when is he gonna stop?
Yeah.
And then he takes his touch out of the majestic step over combination to the left and does a Rabona into the bottom right corner at a very tough angle.
Very tough, and like you said, bottom corner, which is also very hard to do
off a Rabona.
And I mean, just it shows his class. Class is permanent.
Class is so permanent,
even in the Super League. The
Super League is Turkey, for anyone wondering.
Yes. But yeah, I thought we should mention. I mean, 5 goals is incredible.
Definitely a candidate for Hassani of the Week.
Yes.
Although the other players in the bunch, as you've probably already seen on screen, are also really big candidates this week as well.
Exactly. And the second one in the middle there with the trophy is Ilkay Gundogan, who
Silky Ilky.
scored a brace coming off the bench, as we'll talk about, to win Man City the title when it was looking pretty bleak. It was a 2-0 deficit that they had to come back from, but both of his goals, they were close range, I'd say.
Yeah, one was a header and one was a tap in. Both were well taken. The second that he scored was really simple, but he was in the right position. But the first was a header, and it was actually quite good. So, I mean, he came off the bench and he did what he was supposed to do, and he won the title. So, I don't think there's anything you can really say about it not being a good performance or it not being an important performance, because it was probably the most important singular performance of Man City's season from one player in the shortest period of time, and also was in a game that, it's hard to perform under pressure like that. And I feel like Ilkay Gundogan, similar to, I kept drawing the comparison to Gini Wijnaldum, but I feel like those two players, especially when Gini was at Liverpool and with Ilkay now at City, they both tend to show up really big in big games and are able to get the goals that are needed, but they never seem to be consistent starters, or seemed.
Yeah, I don't think, like you said, they never contributed consistent goals. Gundogan did have that streak last season when De Bruyne was out and took that place and then scored like 13 goals or something insane. Wijnaldum, you think of the Barcelona game, the 4-0 at Anfield, you think of all those games that he has shown up and scored for Liverpool. And yeah, I wouldn't classify them as attacking midfielders. I'd say more box to box, but they do end up in those areas. And he came off for Bernardo Silva, who's more of an attacking player and probably more skilled attacking wise. But then to come on and make that impact was, like you said, probably biggest performance of the season for them.
What do you think Pep said to him when he was subbing on?
Ooh, probably don't play defense.
Yeah, to be fair.
I mean, if you saw, both of his goals were like within 3 yards of the goal. So he was definitely up there and making a lot of runs forward instead of trying to track back.
100%. I mean, I felt like it was a performance unlike what you see from Gundogan all the time. He's a very good, classy player, keeps the ball, moves it around, but he went forward, he got the ball in the right places and capitalized on it. And for that, I mean, I think that he deserves a huge vote for this week's Hassani of the Week, although we can debate it a little bit. The last player that we want to talk about who is on screen is Heung-min Son, who got 2 goals this week to get the Golden Boot of the Premier League, which is obviously a very prestigious award, arguably the biggest Golden Boot award in the world, considering it's quite possibly the biggest league.
Yeah.
And he tied Mo Salah for it. Mo got a goal as well in the Liverpool game. Obviously, that wasn't enough to secure the title, but he did end up getting the Golden Boot tied with Mo Salah, which means they both just share it and they both get it. So he also had a fantastic week getting 2.
He did, and in a game where Tottenham couldn't lose, because if they did, Arsenal would have went above them based on Arsenal's result as well. But they went in and won 5-0, I believe, against Norwich, and really just secured it. And I think at the end of the day, Tottenham took their opportunities to secure that top 4, while Arsenal had the opportunity and they kind of wasted it with, I believe they had before the North London derby, they had 2 or 3 games that they let slip up, and
they did not have the end of the season that they wanted.
Exactly. And then Tottenham, I think most people would say they're the better team at this point.
They are. Yeah. Antonio Conte has made them much better. I think the introduction of Dejan Kulusevski into the front 3 has made them a lot more consistent. And, I mean, that showed in this game that they won 5-0 to Norwich. Dejan scored 2 goals in that game, along with Heung-min Son. And Harry Kane also scored. So just showing there, the front 3 is able to score. Yeah. And, I mean, you take one player out of those 3, say they have an off day, Son doesn't get the goals, you're still getting 3 goals. Some come from Kulusevski, some come from Kane. If 2 of them have an off day, you're still probably going to get 1 or 2 goals from one of them. So I think that Spurs team is more consistent, more veterans, and more able to compete in the Champions League next year than Arsenal will be. So I think it's deserved, although there are many people that would probably be disappointed that Arsenal won't be playing Champions League football next year, but instead Europa League football. Just starting out with, thinking who might win it out of these three nominees, I have to add that Heung-min Son's goals were in the 70th and 75th minute, and this was when they were already up 3-0 to Norwich. So it was pretty much entirely secured that they were going to retain that fourth place Champions League spot and that they were going to win the game. So they were good goals. It was good to get that number. It was good to get the golden boot. But I don't think that his actual performance this week was that standout to put him above someone who scored Balotelli's goal that he did, or Gundogan, who won the title. So for that reason, I think I'm going to scrap Heung-min Son, at least from my vote, for who's going to win it right away. I don't know what you think.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Obviously, he won the Golden Boot with the goals he scored, but that's a season-long award and not a weekly award. And I know we've taken down a couple of players in the past for saying, even for Sterling, he scored a hat-trick against Norwich away, and we said, well, if he didn't score the hat-trick, then he would have, City still would have won the game anyway. So it's more importance in the game and in the week.
Yep.
And like you said, if Son doesn't score those goals, they win 3-0 anyway. So
yeah.
I'd have to agree with that. Where are you thinking then for Balotelli or Gundogan? Because it's two different cases.
It's two really different cases, and I think that requires you to look at what the Hassani of the week is more than who you think is valued more or who maybe deserves an award after this week more. If you're just saying who deserves to be recognized after this week of football, I'll tell you Gundogan, because I think Gundogan had a great performance, and with the importance of his goals and his performance, he won arguably the biggest league or domestic trophy in club football. But I don't think that fully represents the Hassani of the Week award. Now, any other given week, and I think he wins it, but when you have someone scoring 5 goals and possibly a Puskás award goal, I don't think you can overlook that with another performance that was just important, because it is an individual award. It is an award about who showed the most class throughout the week on the field, and I think Balotelli did that. I think, and in good style. So 5 goals and a Puskás award. In my opinion, I don't really think you can argue with it.
No, I agree. I think Gundogan, it was more the occasion that he scored the 2 goals. But I think Balotelli, with the way he scored his goals, like you said, I think that goal will be brought up again in a couple months or, in the next year for when the Puskás Award does come around as a main contender. So yeah, I'm happy with giving it to.
Yeah, I would agree. I think he deserves it. So congratulations, Mario Balotelli. Out of all the people that have won the Hassani of the Week award, I would say Mario Balotelli is probably the most likely to have watched or will watch the podcast, and also the most likely to enjoy winning this award.
Yeah,
that would be my prediction.
Yep.
So congratulations, Mario, if you're watching. You won Hassani of the Week for Season 3, Episode 32, and the final episode of Season 3, sort of making history there, closing out a really good season of football. Now let's move on to the rating screen so that we know what rating to give Mario Balotelli and to see if he flies in the ranks of the top 3 or the bottom 3.
Okay.
I think right away you can write out the bottom.
Yeah.
I don't think he's flying in under the radar like that.
You don't think he's making the bottom?
No, I don't. I don't think he's in the 7.5 to 7.9 range.
Really?
No.
Okay. I would have said.
Really?
I would have said maybe a 7.9.
You really think you think he's in the range of? Well, if we look at our 7.9s, when Ronaldo got 3 goals versus Norwich, or when Richarlison got a goal versus Chelsea 2, obviously. Was that? No, that wasn't to.
It was like help. It was just a big performance.
It was a huge performance that it encouraged them to go on and continue winning games to stay up.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I think you have to take into account the league, and then obviously 5 goals is very good. So I'd put him above Sterling, who had the 7.5. And I think 3 goals with Ronaldo got a 7.9. I think it's fair for me, at least.
Wow, that is so different from what I was gonna
Really?
say.
Okay.
Yeah, that is so different.
We might have a very different.
But it'll average out, right?
Yeah.
So it's okay. I was gonna go, if I'm looking at our list of players now. I don't think the full list isn't up there, so I'll just say who I was sort of referencing as a similar rating, and it was 8.4 with Christian Eriksen in episode 25, who had 4 in a week with Denmark and Brentford.
Yeah.
And obviously that's a higher level than the Super League, but I took into account that and then also added that he scored a Puskas contender.
That's true.
And one more goal than Eriksen did during that time. So I'm just putting him at 4. At 8.4. The Super League's still a good level.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely overlooked. It's better than the MLS. It's better than the Liga MX. It's better than a lot of smaller divisions like the Romanian First Division and others around Europe. I think it's just maybe a fraction below the Eredivisie and Liga NOS. So I would definitely say that it's a substantially good performance and he deserves an 8.4, which then if you had 7.9, right, and I had 8.4, that leaves us at 8.15.
Is it true?
8 no, is it? Oh, shoot. Maybe it's 8 no. Oh, this is unfortunate. Let me go to my calculator.
Always got to double check.
Yeah, how would I not know this? 8.15. That's
there you go.
Did you know it was 8.15 or no? Okay.
I didn't try to do them.
Yeah. Okay, so 8.15 is what Mario Balotelli gets as his Hassani of the Week rating for the final episode of season 3. Congratulations.
Just outside of the bottom 3.
Yeah.
I think it's fair.
It is.
Yeah.
Who else is near the bottom 3 that didn't quite get in it? I suppose Anthony Alanga is right on the edge. Is he in it? No, he's not.
No, Richarlison is the highest with 7.95.
Yeah, he's only 1 out of the bottom 3, to be fair. Yeah, look at that. Well, that concludes the Hassani of the Week segment. Like I said before, congrats Mario Balotelli, and definitely deserved out of all of the players that we talked about. But big ups Gundogan and big ups Heung-min Son for 2 really big performances this week. Not individual brilliance, but huge for the circumstances. One winning, I mean, the equivalent if you're an American fan of like, I don't know, what's the award for like the best quarterback? Like the most passing yards? Do they have an award for that?
Sorry.
Yes, they do. They have an MVP and then they have another award, right?
Just put in like basketball.
The Heisman.
Okay. Well, yeah, the Heisman's like
That's MVP.
that's MVP college.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about. What about basketball? Is there an award
The
for
MVP award or the finals MVP?
offensive player of the year?
Okay.
Do they have an offensive player of the year in basketball? Yeah, okay, there you go. So it's like an offensive
They
player
have
of
a
the year.
defensive. I don't know if they have an offensive.
Most improved player?
I don't think Heung-min Son would be the most improved player of the year, to be fair. But I mean,
I get what you're saying.
it's still
Offensive player,
It's he's scored the most goals. He has contributed the most. Well, obviously tied with Mo Salah to his team in the offensive manner. Moving on, we have to talk about our last week's predictions and the games that went on. Let's begin with the Europa League final, which Frankfurt ended up winning on penalties, and it was absolutely limbs.
It was. I mean,
The stadium.
we mentioned it in the last episode when we were predicting it. I said the fans are going to pull through.
They absolutely
They
did.
absolutely did.
It
And
looked like Wembley with the split. It did.
to be fair, both teams did. Had great support, but Frankfurt had
Rangers definitely had some good support.
they had the tifo, and
They
then,
did.
like, they had the flags and everything and the flares, and the whiteout looked really cool.
It did.
It did. But yeah, they won on penalties.
Do you think they gave everyone a white shirt at the stadium, like in their
so
seats?
they
Because I was
were-
like, "There's no way." Because I tried to look during the game, and I didn't find anyone who wasn't
So-
wearing a white shirt. I was like, "There's no way they all coordinated."
Everyone was also wearing a white hat.
There's no way they
And
coordinated.
then
that.
on the Rangers side, everyone was wearing like a fanny pack. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
In the crowd, everyone was wearing
Every
a
single
fanny-
person.
Yes.
So they must
Did
have
they give
given
out
them.
fanny packs and then white hats?
What they must have done is put on the seat.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you see when they
No,
do
yeah,
like stuff at the beginning of the game where it'll like spell out
towels,
something.
yeah.
They'll give out the towels or something. They must have just put a white shirt and a white hat or the fanny pack on the chair for each seat of the stadium.
That would have been hilarious. But it
Unreal.
was literally everyone.
Yeah, I didn't see a single
Yeah.
person not in their coordinated color.
It was crazy. But the fans really brought it, and the game, it picked up in the second half, I'd say. But Rangers did score on a mistake from Frankfurt, but I'd say Frankfurt mostly dominated the game. I
Yep.
think Rangers were lucky to get that goal, but then Frankfurt equalized like 10 minutes later or something, quite soon after, and then it was into extra time and penalties, and nothing usually happens in extra time.
Yeah, it's rare, and if it does, it's kind of frowned upon because once you get to that point, you're like, let's go to a penalty shootout here.
Let's just get to the
Especially if you're
penalties.
neutral.
Yeah. But it went on to penalties, and I think his name's Bore. He got the goal in the normal time, and then also got the winning penalty. But it was just a great game.
It was.
I think the atmosphere really brought it, and I personally, I know you predicted Rangers, or you said you wanted Rangers to win. I personally wanted Frankfurt, and I was happy for them.
Yeah, I mean, it showed in what you will see shortly as Mac's record this week on predictions.
Yeah.
But we first also have to cover the other two games which we predicted. The next one was the DFB Pokal final, which was between RB Leipzig and Freiburg. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to say Mainz, but no, it's Freiburg. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
how I forgot that. They're very similar teams, both red
Yeah.
badges, both have been in the Bundesliga too before in recent years. So, yes, it was between Freiburg and RB Leipzig, and it was a very good game. I felt like RB Leipzig dominated the game, generally speaking.
Yeah.
I only got to watch the first half, unfortunately, because I had a game of my own which took place during the second half and extra time, so I can't really comment on anything past the first half, but it definitely looked like RB Leipzig had more talent on their team. That being said, Freiburg was able to capitalize in the first half off of like one chance that they got.
Well, the chance, I think, is a bit debatable.
It is quite controversial.
Yeah, what even happened? I think there was a cross in.
Yeah,
and
so the guy
Yeah.
he tried to like clear it or deflect it, and it hit his foot or his like thigh, and then went up and hit his hand. And it wasn't like a clearance. It was a Freiburg player, right? So it was,
he's on the top of
it
the
was like
box.
it was like just a deflection sort of off of him, and it hit his thigh and then his hand, and then dropped from his hand. Really, he redirected the ball completely, and it dropped straight to another Freiburg player who was able to finish it.
Yeah.
And so his hand got the direct assist, but they didn't call it a foul or a penalty or anything. Obviously not like a penalty kick,
Yeah.
but like a penalty in the game, because he apparently it hit his thigh first or his body first, so then it doesn't really count. But I don't feel like I could start juggling the ball up and then grab it with my hands and
Yeah,
like throw it somewhere.
The rule is just, I was surprised it was given, especially after the ref went over to look at it himself.
Oh yeah, it was totally VAR checked, and I was with my dad when that happened, and we were watching together, and he is entirely invested in the Premier League. If you're part of the Glass and Grass Fantasy Premier League, you would know by his score this year, which was outrageous. But he doesn't watch many other leagues, and the Premier League is much more strict on VAR, so he was like, how is that not a penalty? That's crazy. But I do think it's worth noting that the Bundesliga is definitely more lax on that stuff.
It is odd, isn't it?
Yeah.
How different leagues, it's the same footy, but different leagues,
Yep.
different rules. And I was surprised by that, but Leipzig did get the equalizer through Nkunku, the Bundesliga player of the year.
Yep. Quite controversially as well, but I do think I do think that he is someone who deserved an award like that this year. It's just controversial considering
Completely,
Lewandowski was able to put up the numbers he did again.
Yeah. And then again went into penalties, and Leipzig did pull through, even though they got a red card later in the second half. They held on, and we both predicted Leipzig, and I think I was happy to see them win, especially after they didn't make it to the Europa League final. They're knocked out by Rangers in the semifinals, so it was good for them to get a trophy.
Most definitely. Yeah, I was happy as well. And then another game that I was really happy about, which happened during a lot of other madness this week. So I wasn't actually able to fully appreciate it or pay attention to it because it was one of the Premier League games, which obviously was happening during 9 other Premier League games.
Yep.
And it was a relegation battle game, so it was not as highlighted as the other ones. But it was the Brentford-Leeds game, and Leeds were able to survive. They were able to pull off the win, and, I mean, it's beautiful to see an American manager able to keep a team up in the Premier League and get recognition like that. Did you see his post-game talk?
In the locker room? I did.
Quite possibly the most American thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
Ted Lasso IRL.
Yeah, it's one of those where, like, if it's a British manager saying that, you're like, yeah, that was great. But
yeah.
It was in an American
his accent, and it was so American, too.
Yeah.
Like, the way he said everything was just, it was so Wisconsin.
What did he say?
I don't remember the exact words, but it was like a motivational thing. Like, you guys did the work. It was all you. Like,
It was
I'm
like
so
a we.
proud.
It wasn't just
Yeah,
me
it's like
as a
we. It's not.
manager.
He said, I don't like it when the fans are chanting my name. Blah blah blah. It was basically just like sort of a good like motivational post game speech.
Then he's
Kind of
like,
cheesy, but he said he's from Wisconsin. If people don't know, he's from just some random city in Wisconsin, not even like a big Madison or Milwaukee or something. I think
Yeah.
like outside of Milwaukee, something like that. But he just said it in the biggest Midwestern accent I've ever heard in my life.
It's like staying in the Premier League.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said
Gents.
it. He said at the end, "We're staying in the Premier League, gents."
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a interesting way to finish it off. But then, the boys started
that's
getting
how we
rowdy
would
right
sound.
after.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's how we would sound. And I feel like it is a bit of a
No, I'd put on
Yeah.
my English
would.
accent.
You would?
If I moved to England, they wouldn't even know.
It's a bit of a double.
Staying in the Premier League, gents.
Like any American ever, like they're gonna make fun
Yeah.
of him for the accent.
Yeah,
which
no,
it's
it's
tough, but it's
it's
great
part of the game.
I loved his reaction to Jack Harrison's goal though.
Yeah.
At the end, he fell to the ground. It was like a dog pile on top of him. And Rafinha, who's probably
Well, Jack has that connection
he does. He knows the
to America. He knows these ends.
Yeah, exactly. Wake Forest. But Rafinha, who's probably leaving.
Yeah. To Barcelona, as rumored.
Exactly. And he did score the penalty that put him up 1-0, and then Brentford equalized, which made it a bit shaky as Burnley needed to lose or just get a worse result than Leeds, and they were losing 2-1 at that time. So then if Burnley would have equalized, Burnley would have stayed up, but then Leeds scored in the last minute to make it 2-1, and Burnley never actually equalized in their game. So
But it was still just that safety feeling.
It was just like,
we
for
made
sure,
it.
Yeah, it's secured for sure, and it was just a great moment. That's one of the games that I was really
You were really in
hoping
tune to that
for-
one.
Yeah, hoping for a result the most. But we can move into more of the Premier League final day because we did touch on the title race, but I mean, what a crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I had two screens up. I had
I
the
had
computer
three,
on,
yeah.
and I had the phone with the Leeds game,
Yeah.
and then I had the computer, and I was in a hotel, so it was like extra hard to get all this set up. And then I had the computer with the Liverpool game, and then the TV with the City game. I was mostly watching the City game, and I was really hoping City would lose
You said
because
that. I don't
yeah,
know why.
so I'm pro Liverpool winning the title.
Really?
I have been on the podcast, and people should know that by now. I'm not a huge City fan myself. Probably, if I were to choose a team, two teams in the top 6 or the big 6 that I dislike, it would be Spurs and City.
Really.
Yeah. So those are the two teams that I don't have a liking to necessarily. And then yeah, I didn't want that. Once Villa went up 2-0, Coutinho scored that second goal, I was dancing around the hotel room, so excited.
What a goal about
It was a really okay. If you guys were watching the game, literally, it was just Villa drilling it up the field with their keeper.
Ollie
Watkins
should
tried
have
to settle
had
it. Oh
probably
gosh,
4 goals. He had a
he was
one-on-one with
through on
Ederson.
goal every other goal kick.
He must be a Man City fan.
Oh, he must.
He must.
And Fernandinho must not be, because Fernandinho in that first half let him through like 5 times.
It just wasn't great. And did So they made subs at half
Fernandinho was the only one to come off at halftime.
at halftime,
And it definitely
Zinchenko
helped.
came on, right? Yeah.
Zinchenko came on, and it definitely helped. They moved John Stones more centrally, had John Stones on Ollie Watkins, which made it much harder for Ollie to get in behind. And though that individual play didn't work anymore, and considering that was the entire attack of Villa in the first half, they started shutting him down. At the time of the first goal from Gundogan, it was still 1-1 at Wolves versus Liverpool. And I have a theory that if Liverpool were able to put one in the back of the net before, or put another one in the back of the net before that goal happened, City wouldn't have found the momentum. But the players all kind of know what's happening in the other game. And as they saw that Liverpool was selling and not able to secure that win, I think they were like, come on, guys, we still got this. We got to keep pushing. We got to keep pushing. And then Liverpool weren't able to get that goal. And then City got the momentum. City scored 3 goals in 5 minutes, 30 seconds. And then the title race is over.
Yeah, it was just crazy. I told you before the game, I was like, oh, it's Man City 2-0 within like 20 minutes. Like, it's not even going to be...
You actually texted me that.
Yeah, it's not even going to be like a good day that's really close. And then Matty Cash scores right before halftime, and I'm like, oh, well, this is good. It's still Man City's title, but, you know, at least it's close. And then Liverpool equalize, and then they go up 2-1, and it's still, I believe, or it was 3-2 at that point, Man City, but Salah thought he won the title.
He did.
Much.
Well, did you see the couple times at Liverpool when all the fans stood up and started chanting because they thought that there was a
I think one of the Wolves fans in that end started the rumor that it was 3-3 and Villa equalized to make it 3-3, which would have made Liverpool actually win the title, and the whole place went
erupted
crazy. And nothing happened. I was looking at my screen. I was oh, are they about to score? And then they never do, because they were on the attack when it happened. I was like, oh my god, Villa score here, and then they didn't. I was like, okay, what?
Yeah,
that's so
it was
mean.
funny though.
That's so mean. I mean, so mean. But I know you are. I was more rooting for Man City just because they were down by 2, and I love Pep, and I think this league, this title definitely helped out his
reputation,
his claim for best manager of all time, and all those.
Well, he's now joint with Sir Alex on 4 Premier Leagues in 5 years, which has only been done by obviously them too. So big congrats to Pep. I do rate him as much as he should be, if not more. I just don't like the actual club of Man City as much as some other people might. But staying on the topic of Man City, before the final day was played, the awards for Young Player of the Year and Player of the Year were announced, and they were both Man City players, and it was quite surprising to me to see. Now, I voted for João Cancelo as Player of the Year, and this was controversial. I got a lot of people letting me know that this was not the right decision.
It was a weird one.
It was a weird one, but I'm pretty sure I said in the last podcast, that I know it's going to be Mo Salah, but I think what João Cancelo has done for City over the past year consistently deserves him to be more recognized than he is. So I'm going to give him the award, but I knew it wasn't going to go to him, and it was kind of just like a throwaway one. So for anyone who was mad about that, just know, I knew Salah was going to win, but then Salah didn't win. And that's what we need to talk about right now. Do you think Kevin De Bruyne, if you didn't know, Kevin De Bruyne won. Do you think Kevin De Bruyne deserves the Player of the Year in the Premier League?
Personally, no.
Agreed.
Yeah, It reminds me of a certain IMAC Player of the Year.
It really does.
You know, Mo Salah got joint Golden Boot. He got most assists. Yes, he had maybe a rough patch after AFCON, but still was contributing to the team and was still obviously top scorer and assister in the whole league, and somehow missed out on the Player of the Season, which I don't really understand. De Bruyne only really showed up in the second half of the season, and when he did very well.
The last 6 games of the season, De Bruyne was magical, but I don't think that justifies you winning a Player of the Year award.
No, and Salah could still like that. Basically means Salah could have scored like 30 goals in the first half of the season, and if he didn't score,
30 in the second half.
yeah, then he isn't a player of the season, and it makes no sense to me. I think it's more recency bias and just saying like, oh, Man City, they're clutching up in all these games. De Bruyne is playing really well, but that's only the last like 2 months of the season, and
Yeah.
I think it was very harsh on Salah.
Definitely. He deserved it, 100%.
Yeah, and then with the young player of the season,
Also, not right.
Phil Foden. Well, you were kind of a fan of choosing.
I thought you were going to choose
Yeah.
Phil. I didn't want to choose Phil. I
Yeah.
thought you were because everyone has raved about how good Phil was this year. But looking at stats, the player who deserved to win the Young Player of the Year was Trent.
Yeah,
Statistically, 19 assists.
Yeah.
You don't beat that
No.
in a season as a player under 23. That's ridiculous. And if you're looking at a player who contributed a lot to their team and was young and was irreplaceable this year for their team in getting them the results they needed, I think went to one of either our picks, Conor
agree,
Gallagher
yeah.
or Bukayo Saka. In no way do I think it should have gone to Phil Foden. He was not essential to Man City. He didn't get the stats. And sure, he showed up in like 6 or 7 games. He showed up in that one Liverpool game and scored a really nice goal. But that doesn't justify you being the Young Player of the Season.
no, I was very surprised when it came out on Saturday morning. I was like, neither of these are correct. But,
Yeah.
and it made me kind of think back. Like, I don't remember fully the past player of the seasons
No.
and if those were valid or
I think
not.
because we're doing the podcast, we're more
Yeah.
in tune with what's happening.
I mean, I remember when
But-
Hazard got his, that was for sure valid, and Chelsea won the league that year. And maybe that's the argument, you know.
I'm pretty sure Salah got it the past couple of years.
He has gotten, and even when Man City did win the league, Salah has gotten it. So I don't really understand the thinking behind these two. Obviously, if they're not the first choice, they're most
right
likely
there.
the second or third.
Like
And-
it's not a knock on what either players have done this season.
No,
It's
yeah.
just like when you're actually looking at a player of the year, I don't think that's
no,
justified.
if you score the most goals and assist the most goals
Yeah,
together as one person, how are you not winning the player of the year?
precisely.
But-
And when your
yeah.
team is when you did that after having a rough patch for like 5 or some game weeks after AFCON, and also when your team didn't win the title and you were in a league with a team that had much more firepower than you financially and statistically on paper. So I don't understand how Salah didn't get that.
No, but it did make me think, what would be your new signing of the season in the Premier League, like newcomer of the season? Because for me, I don't know if there's anyone, maybe Mark Guehi from Crystal Palace, but also I think Kulusevski is probably mine.
That was what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I think Kulusevski, it's hard because you're looking at
Only from January.
yeah, you're looking at a
which
player
is
from
kind of like what we were
kind of
talking
like
about,
Eddie
yeah.
Howe.
Yeah, exactly.
With
who-
Newcastle, how the manager of the season hasn't been released yet.
No, it
I
hasn't.
was confused. I thought they were going to come out.
Probably no.
What?
It's probably Pep now.
Yeah, it will be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was confused at why they released the other ones before this one. That was, I don't know. Is that normal?
I think so.
Maybe. I don't know. It was weird. But yeah, it just like when we were talking about manager of the season last episode, with Eddie Howe, how he came into Newcastle halfway through the season, and we don't think he deserves it because of that. It's kind of hard to justify giving someone a player of the season or incomer of the season award when they only played half the season or even less. But I think what Kulusevski did for that Spurs attack, like I was saying at the beginning of this episode, was incredible, and he made them go from a relatively streaky team that wins 5 games by 7 goals and then loses to, I don't know, Burnley, to a team that wins consistently every single week. So I think for that reason it goes to Kulusevski.
And like you said, pretty much every game that he was playing in, it was him, Son, and Kane all contributing. And usually it's only Son and Kane who are giving them the goals, but he added such a new element to the attack that hasn't been there for.
I mean, no one else
5
did that.
years.
Not Lucas Moura. You know, like you couldn't
Dele Alli
find
never-
a player
yeah.
that did that kind of work with those two players, because you'd have to think it's really difficult. You have Harry Kane, who's going to take every shot within 30 yards that he gets. You have Son, who's going to make every run he can. And how do you slot yourself into that team and put numbers up when you have players like that around you that are going to take advantage of the chances that they get? You're not going to get as many. It's pretty evident, but he has found a way to do it.
Yeah, that just came to mind, was like who has come in and really, because it's usually the case is in the first year of all these signings. You look at Jack Grealish even.
No way does he get
year in the Premier League. Usually they aren't as successful, but he came in and really showed why Conte wanted to bring him into that side. He came from the Serie A, and the Serie A also finished. Juventus didn't win it, but
unfortunately,
no. But AC
for
Milan,
Weston McKennie's club,
yes, who did come back in the final game of the season.
Yep,
which was good to see after his injury. But AC Milan did win their first title in 11 years.
Fikayo Tomori won a Serie A title, and Zlatan, who said when he was leaving LA Galaxy when he was 38 years old, he said, "I'm going to the Serie A until I win a trophy," and now he has done that, getting the. What do they call it? The Sucedetto. I think that's what they call it.
Yeah.
Scudettos.
Yeah.
Scudettos. But he did win the Serie A title, so he got his trophy, and definitely deserved with how consistently well that team has been playing all season.
I wasn't even paying attention because we usually check in on the Serie A like once a week just to see the table, and last time we looked, it was Inter who were first, right?
I think it was Inter. I think AC was above them, but it was really close.
Yeah, it was a great.
It was those two up
race,
there,
yeah.
and it was no one was near them.
No, but that was good to see AC Milan, because Inter did win it last year, right? So it was good. Maybe a better rivalry,
a new era
coming. Yeah, with Milan,
Juventus sort of falling off, and you have the Milan teams coming back, and I mean, maybe Roma a little bit, but not with this year's performance, but maybe in the future we'll see that. Brian Reynolds getting in on the action and whatnot.
Well, yeah. He's going to be
hopefully Venezia with Tanner Tessman and Busio are going to win the league next year. Exactly. Those two players nominated for Ballon d'Or. Did they get relegated?
They might have.
Let's check.
Let's see.
There's no way. That's so tough.
I hope not.
That's unfortunate for the Americans.
Ooh, dead last.
Oh. You think they're going to stay? Serie B for Busio and Tessman.
Serie B is really...
That's a tough one.
Is Busio on loan, or did he...
No, they're there.
They're there, okay.
They're there.
Yeah, maybe they might want to rethink
their
decisions. But Mbappe is probably... Besides the final day of the Premier League...
Yeah, we got to go one country
probably,
over from Italy to France to... a place of great money at the moment.
Manager Mbappe now.
Manager and sporting director and decision maker and owner of Paris Saint-Germain.
Yeah,
Kylian Mbappe.
He chose to stay.
If you didn't somehow know about the Mbappe story, he is not going to Real Madrid. And do you want to say the sum, or do you want me to say the sum?
You can, I think, but. For like context, everyone thought he was going to Real Madrid.
We thought.
Sure. Even Fabrizio, I remember like all what he was posting was like, "Oh, it's not decided yet, but it's most likely Real Madrid."
Yeah,
and then he comes out with this.
I mean, so everyone including us was like, he's going to Real Madrid, and I actually remember saying on the podcast last week or 2 weeks ago, I was like, imagine how anticlimactic it'll be if he just stays at PSG. Yeah. And that was like on people's minds a little bit, but it was as a joke. Like people were like, nah, he's going to Real Madrid. But I think we have seen the biggest scam to make money in the history of sports over the last week. Kylian Mbappe basically got everyone in the entire world to think that he was leaving Paris Saint-Germain to go to Real Madrid, so that PSG, and he got PSG included to think that. To the point where PSG offered him the biggest contract ever given in football history in order to stay, just because they wanted their golden boy back. And he accepted it. And that was definitely the plan.
Yeah.
And the contract was $300 million as a signing bonus. So right when he signed the paper, he got $300 million. as well as $100 million every year for the next 3 years.
What do you think about that?
That's
Sadie?
crazy, Suddy. And there's more. On top of that, he gets to decide PSG's next coach, and he gets to decide PSG's next sporting director, which is their general manager, and he has to sign off on all future transfers in and out of the club. So if you're an American
What
fan,
players he
all
wants
future
them to
trades.
sign.
He became the owner.
He literally became
he's
the owner
literally
of the
owner.
club.
And
That's insane.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
it's like LeBron.
It's outrageous.
LeBron.
He became the owner of the
Yeah.
He has full control of the club at the moment.
The 300 signing bonus is insane.
That's ridiculous. $300 million when you sign the contract.
He's making. I always love looking at the breakdowns. He's making pretty much €2 per second
That's crazy.
That's
or per minute. I think
per minute.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
is that not crazy?
Wow. No, not per minute. It would be per second. They
Per
always
second,
do it
yeah.
per second.
Yeah, per second. I mean, I know you would love to have
Hold up. I'm gonna actually.
€2 per second.
I would at the moment.
Is he that good of a player?
That's the thing. I don't rate him as much as Erling
I mean,
Haaland.
Is he like top?
he is top
He-
2.
He's a top 2 player in the world. So he is like, it's like Steph Curry and LeBron, and I'd maybe say that he's Steph Curry right now.
In their primes, I'd say.
Yeah.
When they were younger, like, I'd say he's top 2 for sure. There's no one that touches him. And
Obviously, we're
Haaland.
past. I think we can all agree we're kind of past the Messi Ronaldo era at this
Yeah.
point, and now it's sort of the
In
Haaland
terms of
Mbappe
like
era.
future, who you would want to like start your franchise with, he is.
He is top
probably-
2 of who
yeah.
you want to start your franchise with. Erling Haaland, who is now going to Manchester City for a remarkable 75 million.
Yeah.
So way cheaper.
Compared to.
So-
Like 500 million.
Yeah. Well, the transfer the transfer fee was 75 million for Haaland, so that doesn't actually go to him. That's just what they paid Haaland's old team to get him. I don't know his contract. I don't know if it's been released, but I would assume
Decently high.
I would assume it's really high,
Yeah.
but it's not 600 million in 3 years plus the full control of a club high.
Yeah, and also like the main thing is, if he were to transfer, he would actually have more of an opportunity to win the biggest trophy you can win.
Yeah.
When the team he's at right now,
They're not
has-
as good.
Has always failed to win it, and like have
They
got
always
knocked
choke.
out. Yeah, so
He's basically staying at a team who always chokes instead of going to a team who's definitely going to win trophies just because of the money.
So he's in it. He's in it.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious now. And within 12 hours of him making this decision, nearly the entire football world went from loving him to hating him.
and also within like a couple hours, it was announced that the manager and sporting director were both thought to leave.
Yeah.
Like already. He was
Yeah. He was like, let's get them out real quick.
just- yeah.
Let's do a little refresh here.
It was crazy. It was like you said. I think most people were on the side of Mbappe being way better than Haaland.
Until
But now I think people are turning and they're like, oh, he's
he's in it
I
for the
don't
money.
respect him now.
Yeah.
But to be honest, it's still a great club. He's still playing with Neymar. So it's
Yeah, he's
like-
still playing
it's
at
not
one of the
worst
top
thing.
5 teams in the world, but it's a top 5 team in the world who I think has the least chance of winning a trophy out of all the top 5 teams in the world.
And most of the best players in the world move clubs to a better club.
Yeah,
If
to
they-
try and win
Yeah.
trophies.
So
It's just it's a crazy situation. It's kind of like when some players in the past, Oscar and Boabo dos Santos being one of them, went to China for absolutely millions of dollars. If you don't know,
probably similar
Oscar,
contract.
yeah, Oscar went to China. Now he was a much lower caliber player, so he was probably making somewhere in the realm of $5 to $10 million with Chelsea in the English Premier League, and then he left and went to China to make $50 million at a Chinese team and has never been seen again. So he has just made tons of money and dipped.
Yeah.
Some players do that, but I don't have respect for it.
No, but we'll see how it goes.
We will.
Maybe he will bring in some great signings.
Yeah, maybe he'll make some trades
Yeah.
and whatnot and
Uh,
actually figure it out.
Yeah, but we can move on, I think, to the predictions for next week. It's 3 finals.
It is. It
You know,
is.
it's that time of year. But first one is Roma, as we talked about, versus Feyenoord, who are in the Conference League final, which is the final UEFA final. So
It is.
Who do you take?
Is it
here?
the final? Is it
Well, we can
after?
mention-
Wait, is it after the Champions League?
No, it's before, I think.
So then it's not the final UEFA final.
That's true.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the second to last UEFA
It
final.
is. It
Yeah.
is. It's the final week.
It's the final week of UEFA finals.
Yes.
Final.
We should mention though, I went 3-0 this week,
Yeah, I think it does
Yeah.
need to be mentioned how.
and you went
class-
2-1.
Yeah, I'm getting better consistently, just improving a little bit.
Step by
I'm
step.
building my game. It's next season that I'm really looking forward to.
Well, we're not resetting the all-time, are we?
You would think we might have to. Well, I think that the best way to settle this would be an Instagram poll. That's my
Yeah,
opinion.
sure.
We can poll it.
Okay.
So whatever you guys listening, if you're listening, I'll do it on like Wednesday or something. I'll do a poll for.
Or we could like add an all-time a season in the last
True,
week.
but you really want that to still be there so
Well, I'm
people
doing
see.
very well.
I don't know if I want that to be continued. But yeah, I mean it's a great way to end the year here with all of these finals, and Roma Feyenoord, obviously not a huge final, being the Conference League, probably the third best tournament in Europe. So it's not going to be really talked about as much, but it does gain you entrance into the Europa League, and that's relatively important for teams who are just trying. I when I think about it, it's like it's important because you get more exposure to be in the Europa League, but also is it that important? Because I think the Europa League, in my opinion, especially the Europa Conference League, makes it so that you almost lose in a way, because you're not playing in the big tournament, you're not playing in the Champions League, but you're still required to play the same amount of extra games. So you suffer domestically in your important league that you play in all year round, and then you have to go play in this other like league within the shadows of the big Champions League and get less exposure and do it all for the same amount of effort.
Yeah, but it still is a trophy.
It is,
And
yeah.
I think that's the main attraction. But I'd say it's a Roma win for me.
I would agree.
I have no doubt in Jose Mourinho motivating Tammy Abraham to push him over the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tammy with 6 goals.
6, I think. Is fair. Yeah.
5 penalties.
Yeah.
One in a shootout. Because it's going to end 6-6 and go into penalties.
Okay.
And then Tammy's going to score his 6th. Because the other goal is going to come from Brian Reynolds.
Brian. Exactly.
That's the ideal
Yeah.
situation here.
And then final.
Liverpool versus Real
UEFA
Madrid.
Final.
Do you want? I'll go first because you
yeah,
went first
yeah,
last
you
time. I don't really need to introduce it very much. It's the Champions League final. It's the biggest game of football that'll be played this year, except for the World Cup final. And I am, when it comes to the Premier League and looking at the top teams in the Premier League, I'm a Liverpool fan. But when it comes to looking at the world and the top teams in the world, I'm more of a Real Madrid fan. I like Los Blancos. I like the team. I like their history, and I like their jerseys. So, for that reason, I will be going for Real Madrid. I also think they have a better chance.
So we did the prediction on our social media along with the Champions Pod. And do you remember the score you chose?
4-1 Madrid.
4-1 Madrid. What did I do? Did I do 2-1 Madrid, I think?
People were in the comment section about me saying, like, that is the boldest prediction I've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, 4-1 is not even close.
No.
I mean, I kind of have to stick with my original prediction. My one worry is Liverpool didn't win the title, so they'll go out and win this one, which
Yeah, this is true.
could be huge. But,
For the treble.
yeah, I'm a man of respect, and I have to stick with my original.
That's true. You can't really
Yeah.
go away from that.
No, that would
Well, now we have to choose different teams
It's true.
because you've done the same for both of the first two.
And I'm choosing France.
Oh no, this is not good. See,
Would you like to change one of yours before?
Yeah, I'm gonna go for Feyenoord just because
Okay.
I think Roma will win, but I definitely want to choose Nottingham Forest in the final.
Yeah.
There's no way. The final game, as you can see on screen, is Nottingham Forest Huddersfield in the EFL Championship final the playoff final to see who goes up to the Premier League. Obviously, 2 teams secured it during the regular season, and now 1 team gets to secure it through the playoffs. So I don't think there's many people that don't want Nottingham Forest to go up. Samba to Wembley. Samba
3
to the
penalty
Premier
saves.
League. Samba is my favorite goalkeeper in the world right now.
We didn't even talk about 3 penalty saves in the semifinal.
Another pitch invasion there.
It was. That's probably gonna stop.
there was one at the Port Vale Swindon game in the League Two playoffs. There was one at the Nottingham Forest game in the Championship playoffs,
At
and then there was
Everton.
one at Everton, and there was one at City. Oh, it's getting crazy at the moment. I love it because I love the limbs and I love the passion, but also like people are getting injured now, and like
Yeah.
if you didn't see at the City game, there was a goal that was broken. Like people sat on the
They
goal and it
broke,
snapped in
a
half.
$3,000 like official net.
Yeah.
It just was not ideal. I think probably winning the title is the only acceptable
Yeah.
time to storm the
Although
field.
the Port Vale Swindon game, I was having it. I was, let's go, boys.
It was the semifinals too, wasn't it?
I know.
The finals. But I'm gonna have to agree with you with Nottingham Forest. They're my fan favorite to go up, and I really, I think that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, Nottingham Forest.
I'd
Both
love
of
to
us.
see them in the Prem.
I would as well.
Yeah,
Totally.
Samba,
Sambo's.
goalkeeper. What's it called Golden Glove.
Yeah, Golden Glove, Premier League.
Yeah.
Here we come. I mean, that closes out the predictions. Feyenoord for me, Real Madrid for me, Nottingham Forest for me. And for you, Roma, Real Madrid, Nottingham Forest. Look at that.
Exactly.
There it is. Well, now we have to close the same
We
way
have
we
to.
do every single week of the Premier League season. And because this is the last one of the Premier League season.
End of our season.
Oh, I
too.
suppose it's not, because we do have the Champions League still to cover.
I mean, we can start it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
It depends. But closing out, we might just have to go with it now.
We might. It's very true. We might.
We might just follow the Premier League schedule.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, club football.
Yeah. But now, as you can see on screen, fantasy is up. This is the last fantasy of the season. I'm tearing up a little bit. Not. But no, I mean, I'm playing next year for real.
Yeah.
I am. No, 100%. I'm
Okay.
playing it. I'm moving my team around every week.
In the
next year.
draft or in the regular?
Both. I'm
Okay.
grinding next year. So this is the last fantasy of this season. The last fantasy where Leo is not in first place. And yeah, I mean, it's been a great season. That's all I can say. I mean, we've showed our true class.
I mean, I think I had the most impressive run in the draft, given that I did not touch my team in the draft for the whole year since the draft night.
Yeah.
And I finished third, 1 point behind first place, which, to be honest, is really it's ideal. But
I can't get this stupid screen to
yeah,
work if you're wondering why we're laughing. Yeah,
exactly.
so he didn't touch
I don't
his
think he
team, but his
made
team ended
third
up doing that.
Quite,
Well, they're all in prison.
yeah. But in the Final Fantasy, I
Final Fantasy
yeah,
the game.
Yeah,
Giving a little shout out to one of our sponsors.
an average of 50 is actually, that's nice to see.
Yeah, it is from
pretty
the
low.
lads.
But I got a 29. It's
Yeah, it's not
a
great.
bit below the average.
James did well.
finished out the season just what I wanted to see. De Bruyne also contributing, but that was about it for them. My draft secured a win last match of the season versus you actually, with 52, and I got that third place spot. Got into Champions League football for next year, so I'm happy about that.
I mean, that's good for me. Again, the average of 50 is it's great to see from the world. People really taking it serious this last week.
Yeah.
I did as well. Natty Cash with 7. You like to see it. Conor Gallagher with 3. Salah with 6. I mean, it's a really solid team. Salisu, great stuff, getting 0.
Oh, your captain got moved to the bench. I see.
Dennis got
did
moved to the
get moved.
bench. He didn't play.
No.
So, but that's okay.
Yeah.
We accept it sometimes. But it wasn't a terrible week. Neil also didn't play, which is not ideal. In the draft though, much better. Mbuemo and Tony getting the 2 points as usual. I mean, I'm not measuring this off of points, I'm measuring this off of consistency. So
Yeah.
it's really
Such
similar.
consistent players.
Yeah.
You'll know for next season.
Yeah, I mean Webster again, consistency. Cresswell, consistency. I mean, you like even Saint Maximin, Benrahma, and Mape with the zeros. It's super consistent. So I'm gonna learn from that. Like, don't pick them.
Yeah. So your team's going to be a little different than.
I'm switching
last year.
3 players.
3.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. I think that will push you from 6th place up to 1st.
Yeah. So I mean,
Enough.
right. The World Cup's gonna really affect next season.
It's true.
I don't know how they're. I just had to throw it out there. I don't know how they're gonna deal with that. Just throw it out there in general.
Yeah.
It's definitely gonna affect it.
100%.
Well, that concludes the podcast for this week. I mean, great stuff, Suddy.
For this
Congrats on a
season.
fantastic season.
What a season.
I'd like the applause from you as well.
Yeah.
You gotta respect all the hard work that went into it from myself, Mac, Sutton, and everyone else who's been helping out with Glass on Grass Media. Shout out to the writers. Shout out to the other podcasts. Shout out to everyone. It's been a great.
Everyone.
It's been a great year.
The world.
Yeah. Shout out to the world. Thank you guys. Shout out to people who watch.
Yes.
I mean, it's been great. Thank you guys for a wonderful season, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.